Assalamu alaikum everyone, and I hope you all are fine. I'm sure you all are doing well and things are fine to all of you. Okay, and I think you people have gone through previous lectures we had in classes. Before attending this lecture, make sure you have gone through the last lectures. So I strongly recommend you all to go through the previous 5 lectures respectively to understand our today's lecture on the topic grouping data. Okay, let's start the lecture. Let's start. Okay, in this lecture you will learn how to use group by clauses and what is grouping data or group by clause. Okay, uh, basically, the group by clause allow you to arrange the rows in different groups. The groups created by group by clauses are determined by the columns that you specify in group by clauses. Okay. For example, if you want to see the syntax of group by clause, I think it will help you if I write the syntax. Like you have to write the select, then the list of columns you want to display, then again from, after from you have to write the table name of your table from which you want uh, to group your data, and last not the least the group by clause which contains some column names, means from which column you want to group your data. Okay, in this query, in the syntax of query, the group by clause return a group for each combination of values in column listed in group by clause. Okay, consider the example of employee table which you can see on your screen. Let me further increase the size of the screen so you can clearly watch it. Okay, in this table we have 4 columns and 7 rows, and we are applying a group by clause in this data. Okay, how group data works, according to this query, it will return 2 columns because we are selecting just 2 columns from this list of rows and column. We are saying that select or show us department ID and the average salaries. Okay, calculate this average salaries and show only 2 columns. That is why the resultant column is showing you the 2 columns, the department ID and the average salary of employees. Okay, from where? From employee table, group by. Now the these 2 columns totally depend on this group by clause. We are saying that firstly apply or make a group from department ID and then show us these 2 columns. Okay, and how it will make a group? First of all, it convert all rows in a group, like it considered or take the one, this one, again it has the department ID one, means if a column having the same department ID, it will make a group for that. According to this statement, how many group it can make? Just 3, because these both have the same value, these and this one, and the third, Means according to department ID and this statement, this table is going to grouped into three subsets: 1, 2 and 3. How does it work? It will take the value of department ID. If it is 1 and if it is also 1, it will go to the salary column and calculate the average of these both. And the average of both these 2500 and 3500 is 3000. This one is showing that there are two columns or any number of columns in your table which has a salary, it is calculating its average. Okay, again we have the second group, which is the 2. It is also taking the Jones salary, the David salary and the Mark salary, and it is making or calculating the average of both three people. Sorry, uh, it will calculating the average of three people, these three peoples. And the third group is 3, which is Steve and Alice. Their salary is calculated and uh, taking out the average from their salaries. I hope you are understanding that how group by clause works. It's just make or divide your whole table into small subsets or small groups, followed by the column which you are specifying after this group by statement. We had specify here the department ID. Okay, then this whole table is divided or being grouped by this department ID. Means if there is a ID, if there are same IDs, make a group of them. Means if we have 1, if Anna has a department ID 1, if James have a department has a department ID 1, then make an average of them. Group by with where. You can also use the where clause with the group by clause to further restrict your rows for grouping. Okay, uh, I think you all know what is the purpose of using where. It will filter out your data. Okay, you are giving some search condition to the select query, it will return some data according to your filter condition. Okay, uh, let's read this line and I will explain you. The first one is group by clause to restrict the rows for the grouping. It will help you to restrict or filter your data. The rows that satisfy the search condition are considered for grouping. Okay, before making group, it will apply filter on your data. Okay, uh, please remember this point, that where clause is always applied on your table. After the where clause, the data which is remain or which is get from your rows, those data is again grouped. Means first it will apply the filter, then apply the group. The third line is the rows that do not meet the condition in the where clause are eliminated before any grouping is done. Okay, simple. I think the third line is also explaining the second one, in which it is explaining that the rows that do not meet the condition means it will just filter out the unwanted rows and give you the rows which you want and apply grouping on that data. Okay, let's take this example, employees data example. I will write the query for you. In this, select department ID average from employee. I will write the same for the where condition. Okay, let's start like select select department ID, and here I'm not using the average. I'll use the count. Aggregate function, count, average, these all are the functions which are called aggregate function, because they make averages or count or combine the values basically. And I want to make the count of salaries. No, this won't work. Average is good here. For this example, average aggregate function is better. Okay, select department ID and again average salary from employee where uh, where what I have salary is greater than 3000, and after that I will apply group by close on by department ID. Okay, what this query is going to do on your data or your employee table, it will first filter out all the rows which have the salary greater than 3000. Okay, the employees whose salary is greater than 10,000, then group by data would be applied on that employee ID's record. Okay, means firstly it will filter out according to the salary, whose means employees whose salary is greater than 3000. Then after applying that filter, it will take the filtered data and apply group by on that. Means according to this statement, if I want to see this example, okay, what was the condition? That the salary should be greater than 3000, and according to that data the James will be eliminated. Only James will be eliminated. Okay, then the average salary of the group 1 according to department ID group by, it will be just, it would be just 35,000 I think, because it will get only one data after filtration. When the where clause is applied in this table, just this record is eliminated because this is just less than 3000, and we have applied the salary should be greater than 3000. This also, this statement, or sorry, this row also will be eliminated from your this employee table. This record will be eliminated, and this record will be eliminated. After eliminated these two rows, it will again make the group according to your department ID, and then calculate the average salary of your employees according to the department ID. Okay, okay, the next group by with null, you can use group by with null also. Okay, according to group by clauses, or when you are using group by clauses, null is also a value. Means for group by clause, null is also a separate value. You can use it separately as a other value. Okay, like the last example we are discussing in the employee table, there were three groups, 1, 2 and 3 for employee according to employee department or department ID. uh, if that column contains any null value in the department ID, it will make an other column or another row for calculating the average of the employees whose department ID is null. Okay, means according to the group by clause, or in a group by clause, null values are always treated as a value or a separate value. Okay, if the group by column contains more than one value, I'm reading the second line. Okay, Second statement, if the grouping column contains more than one value, the null values are put into a single row. This statement explains that if you are so many null values in the department ID, for example, I am again going to the first slide, which has the employee ID table. Means in this department ID column, if you have a null, means consider this one a null value instead of 3, and consider this 2 as null. Okay, consider or assume that here is null and here is return null. Okay, then what will be the answer according to this table, and if we apply this query on this table? Okay, there would be an other column like 1, 2, 3, and last one would be null. Okay, okay, and it will calculate the 4000 and plus 3000, which is I think 7500, and it will divide by 2. I don't know what will be the answer, but it will show the average of 4000 and 3000 here, and it will show null here. Okay, according to the group by clause, null statement or null values are separate values. If you are using null in a group by column, it will treat it as a separate value. Okay, I am reading now the third statement. Using a group by on a query for this table will take into the consideration the null values too. Yes, if you are using anything, any kind of null values in a column which you are specifying as a group by, or you want to group by, applying group by on that particular column, it will always treat the null as a separate value. Okay, as shown in the figure, I think if we apply or try to write a query on this table, there would be like select class and the average list price from the table name group by class. Okay, and that class column always also contains some null values. That is why it is referring a null group. Okay, this is referring a null group, means you have 3 or 4 or even one null value in your class column. That is why it is treating the null as a separate value and showing the average list for null values price. Okay, okay. You can also use having statements or having clause with a group by clause. Okay, like you can use the where clause, but as we discussed before, that where statement does not apply on a group. Okay, means now there is a criteria you want to apply filter on your group by clause data or group data. Where is just used for the simple data or simple columns for filtering your data, but not on grouped or group by clause. Means your data is filtered before applying the group by clause when you use where statement. And yes, there is a need of a filter which you can apply on a group by data, okay, or group data. So here having is introduced, or what is the purpose of having? There is a need of a clause or a statement which we can apply on group data. Okay, the first statement is saying the same. The second statement, the having clause, acts as a where clause. As I said before, both are same. Both are used to filter or search the data or work on a search or filter condition, where the where clause cannot be used against aggregate functions such as sum. Okay, as we were using the average aggregate function on the last employee data, And according to second statement, it is saying you can use having clause instead of where clause if you are using any aggregate function. And the third statement is once you have created groups with a group by clause, you may wish to filter the results further. Same as before, like you cannot apply where clause, you cannot searched your data or filtered your data after group by. If you use a where condition, you need an other statement which will help you to apply search or filter on your data. Okay, now the fourth line, the having clause acts as a filter on groups. Okay, similar to how the where clause act as a filter on rows returned by the from clause. Basically the difference between having and where is that you can apply on a simple column. If you want to search any data in a simple column without a group by clause, you can use where clause. But if you want to apply a search condition or a filtered on your data after a group by, you can use having. Before group by, it's where. After group, after creating the groups, you want to also apply a filter, you have to use having condition or having clause. Okay, now let's see this example. It will elaborate you the whole situation. Okay, firstly we will see the syntax. Like we have to write the select and then the column which we want in our result set, like these columns from the table name. Like we have written employee here, group by, we have directly applied group by, then having, then our search condition. Okay, always try to remember the sequence. Means you cannot write the statement like select the column name, then you applied the group by, then after group by you have written the from. No, you cannot do this. Always try to remember the sequence. Means select is always first, then from statement, then group by, then having. If you want to use a where clause in between this, you have to write it like select, then from, then where, then group by, after group by, having. Okay, now what's the example is explaining us the same data and the same table. Okay, the same result. I'm not going to explain this again. uh, if you didn't get this, you can pause the video and go back and listen that. Okay, after filtering or after applying the group by data, we get this result. And after result, if we apply having on a group, because we get a group, we we get three groups from this statement, because it has merged the one, twos and threes from the department ID according to their salaries, and it is giving us average salary of each department as a group. After this, we need to apply a filter condition after making the groups, so we have to use a having. And what we are saying in having, that only show those record which in which the average salary is greater than 3000, and it is applying filter here. So according to the filter, it will terminate this line. Okay, it will exclude this from the statement and just given those records whose average salary is greater than 3000, which is 4000 and 4250. Okay, aggregate functions. Okay, let's read the first line, then I'll explain it. Aggregate functions help to perform analysis across the rows, such as counting rows, meeting specific criteria, or summarizing total sales for all orders. Basically, aggregate functions are used for analyzing or summarizing your data. Means to sum, you want, you need to sum the salaries of all employees. You can use the sum function, some aggregate function from to summarize or to calculate the whole uh, salary salaries of your employees. And you want to count the number of employees, you can use the count function of aggregate function. There are a lot of functions. Okay, let's read the second line. Aggregate function return a single value. It will always return. Okay, aggregate function will always return a single value. Like if I am adding 3 or 4 employees salaries, obviously it will return a single value. After the summarization of sum of 5 employees salary, it will given me a single value, which will be the sum of all the employees salary, and can be used in select statement with a single expression. Yes, it is, such as select, having, order by clauses. Okay, like in it can be used with select statement, having statement, and order by statements or clauses. So far we have used the average function, which is an aggregate function with the select, and also we have used the average aggregate function with having clause. Okay, in the last slide where we have learned about the having. And now the third line, aggregate function ignore nulls except when using with the count. Okay, not like not like the group by clause, as we know that the group by clause always count uh, or consider the null as a value, but in aggregate function it never counts or consider the null as a value. It will always ignore it except when you are using with count. Okay, uh, means it will count function is basically just count the rows. That's why it never ignore the null. Otherwise every aggregate function ignores the null. Okay, for example, you are again I have the same example, which is easy, I think. You are, for example, you are adding the salary of the employees, and you have yet not decide the salary of one employee, and you have returned the null instead of writing any salary value. So if you apply if you apply the sum function to that rows, it it will sum all the other salaries except the null. Okay, again the fourth line, aggregate function in a select list to not generate a column alias. Yes, if you are calculating anything using an aggregate function and you consider as it will generate a column name by itself, no, it will never generate any column name unless you by yourself use an alias to write a name. Okay, the last line, aggregate function in a select clause operate on all rows passed to the select phase. If there is no group by clause, all rows will be summarized. Okay, means if you are summing the salary of the all employees, means you have 1000 employee in your company and you are trying to calculate the total salary, that how much salary you are giving to your employees. It will just return you a single value on behalf of the sum function you have applied on your salaries of your employees. Okay, Okay, these are some built-in aggregate functions. Like there are 5 aggregate function. First one is average, and its syntax is you have to write avg and your expression what you want to write. It will calculate the average, and it will calculate the average of all numeric values, and it will exclude or ignore the null value. Okay, again the second one is count, or the count underscore big. The count with static means count all the rows including the null values. And we know that from the last slide that count is the only aggregate function which never ignores uh, the null values. And there are two count function, one is count and the second one is count big. The only difference between the count and the count big is count will return the data in int. Okay, return the value in int, and count big will return the value in big int. Okay, the third one is max function, which will return you the maximum value from your rows, or the largest value. It would be the latest date and time. If you apply max on date, it will return you the recent or the latest date and time, or the last occurring string. Okay, if you are applying on it on if you are applying it on a string or on numeric, we know that it will give you the largest number. And the minimum is, you can say, the vice versa of maximum. It will give you the earliest time or the first occurring string, or if you have to apply it on the numeric value, it will give you the smallest number. And the last one is the sum. It will calculate the sum of the all known null numeric values. Okay, uh, as we have learned on the last as we have learned in the last two slides, that all the aggregate function ignores the null, just accept the count function. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, now let's see the differences between the where clause and the having clause, uh, which we have discussed before. Where clause basically specify the criteria which individual record must to be selected by a query. It can be used without a group by. Okay, it is always applied on your table with the select query, and the having clause cannot be used without the group by clause. Okay, you can use anywhere where statement without group by clause, but you cannot use having clause without a group by clause. The second statement is you can use the where clause before grouping. I think i've I've told you before that there is a sequence of writing any query. If you are writing a statement which contains the where, the statement sequence should be like, uh, you have to write first select, then from, then where. Okay, then the second, in this statement, the having clause select rows after grouping. Okay, the where clause select rows before grouping means the where statement is always applied on those rows which are not grouped yet. When these rows are grouped, then you can apply having clause on it. Okay. The third statement, the where clause cannot contain aggregate function. You cannot use any aggregate function with where clause, but you can use any of aggregate function with having clause. And the third statement is, fourth one is where clause is used to impose condition on select statement with a single row and before. This is same as the second one if you read it. And the fifth one is the example which contains the where clause and the group by. Like, you have to write the select, then the from, then where clause, then group by clause, and after group by clause you can use the having clause. Okay, always try to remember the sequence. It is very important. Okay, thank you for listening the lecture, and I hope you guys get this. Okay, Allah Hafiz. See you in next lecture.